Captain Chris Williams looked out the window as the UNSC Nemesis lurched toward the Vorkarian homeworld, ready to show those alien fucks exactly what humans could do with a 5-kilometer-long supercarrier carrying 250,000 crew, a full complement of fighters, bombers, and the most advanced weaponry in human history. Williams felt the ship's metal under his boots, heard the hum of the engines, smelled the recycled air. He ran a hand over his graying hair, his weathered face set in a determined scowl earned from countless space battles. He knew this mission was humanity's last desperate gambit. The Vorkarians had been attacking human colonies for months with their advanced tech. Now the UNSC was finally striking back, but the stakes couldn't be higher. As the Nemesis and its escorts approached the Vorkarian system, a massive enemy fleet appeared on the view screens, led by the ruthless Vorkarian High Commander Prylar's flagship. Prylar saw humans as weak, inferior. He wanted to conquer them, take their territory for his empire. But he had no clue what he was in for with the Nemesis. The fleets faced off, weapons hot, seconds from unleashing hell. The fate of the human race hung in the balance. Defeat the Vorkarians here and force their surrender, or see humanity wiped out entirely. Williams gripped the arms of his command chair, his heart-pounding jaw clenched. He had to find a way to win this. He refused to let his species fall, refused to fail. The Vorkarians were about to learn just what humans could do when their backs were against the wall. High Commander Prylar stood on the bridge of his flagship, hands clasped behind his back. His pale blue skin contrasted sharply with the ornate black and gold uniform that marked him as the supreme leader of the Vorkarian Empire. Piercing yellow eyes narrowed as he took in the view of the human fleet arrayed before him. "Look at them," Prylar scoffed, turning to his advisors. "These primitives actually believe they stand a chance against us. Their arrogance will be their undoing." His second-in-command, a stout Vorkarian with deep blue skin, stepped forward. "Shall we open fire, sir? We can wipe them out in minutes." Prylar waved a hand dismissively. "Proceed. Let's make an example of these humans. They need to learn their place in the galaxy." The Vorkarian ships unleashed a barrage of laser fire and plasma torpedoes, the deadly projectiles streaking across the void toward the human fleet. Explosions blossomed against the hulls of several smaller vessels, but to Prylar's shock, the human ships held firm. The UNSC Nemesis, in particular, seemed to shrug off the Vorkarian assault. Its advanced shielding flared with each impact, absorbing the brunt of the damage. Even as Prylar watched, the Nemesis returned fire, its own weapon systems unleashing hell upon the Vorkarian fleet. "Impossible," Prylar hissed, his fists clenching. "How are they withstanding our attacks? Their technology is inferior." His advisors looked equally stunned, their eyes wide as they watched the battle unfold. The human ships moved with surprising coordination, their fighters and bombers swarming the Vorkarian vessels like angry hornets. Prylar slammed a fist down on the arm of his command chair. "Concentrate all fire on their flagship. I want that ship destroyed now." The Vorkarian fleet obeyed, pouring everything they had into the Nemesis. The Supercarrier's shields flared brightly under the onslaught, but still it refused to fall. Prylar's frustration mounted with each passing second. On the bridge of the Nemesis, Captain Chris Williams remained a pillar of calm in the chaos of battle. He studied the tactical displays, his mind racing as he formulated a plan. "Sir, the Vorkarian flagship is heavily shielded," his tactical officer reported. "Our weapons are having minimal effect." Chris nodded, his jaw set with determination. "Then we need to get creative, prepare for Operation Starhawk." His crew exchanged glances, but they trusted their captain's judgment. They set to work, readying the Nemesis for the bold maneuver that could turn the tide of the battle. Prylar, meanwhile, could only watch in growing disbelief as the humans continued to hold their own. He had underestimated them, a mistake he now realized could cost him everything. Chris gripped the arms of his command chair, his mind racing as he watched the Vorkarian fleet unleash a relentless barrage on the Nemesis. The ship shuddered under the impacts, but the shields held firm. He knew they couldn't keep this up forever. It was time for a bold move. "Helm, plot a course directly for the Vorkarian flagship," Chris ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "Full speed ahead." His crew hesitated for a moment, stunned by the audacity of the command, but they trusted their captain. The helmsman nodded and input the new coordinates. The Nemesis surged forward, its engines roaring to life as it accelerated towards Prylar's ship. On the bridge of the Vorkarian flagship, Prylar's eyes widened in disbelief as he saw the human supercarrier charging straight at him. "All ships concentrate fire on that vessel," he shouted, his voice tinged with desperation. "Destroy it now." The Vorkarian fleet obeyed, pouring everything they had into the Nemesis. Laser beams and plasma torpedoes slammed into the ship's shields, creating a dazzling display of light and energy. But still, the Nemesis kept coming. Chris allowed himself a small smile as he watched the distance between the ships rapidly closing. The Vorkarians had no idea what was about to hit them. "Activate the Starhawk," he commanded. Deep within the Nemesis, a team of engineers worked frantically to bring the secret weapon online. The directed energy beam, powered by a revolutionary fusion reactor, hummed to life. It had been kept hidden, a closely guarded secret known only to a select few. As the Nemesis closed to point-blank range, Chris gave the order. "Fire." A blinding beam of pure energy erupted from the Nemesis, cutting through the void of space like a searing lance. It struck the Vorkarian flagship dead center, slicing through its shields as if they weren't even there. Prylar had a moment to register the look of shock on his crew's faces before the beam tore his ship apart. The flagship split in two, explosions rippling along its length as atmosphere vented into space. Debris spun away from the wreckage, glittering in the light of the nearby star. The sudden destruction of their flagship sent shockwaves through the Vorkarian fleet. Some ships broke formation and fled, their crews realizing the tide had turned. Others fought on desperately, but without coordination, they were easy pickings for the Nemesis and its escorts. Chris wasted no time pressing the advantage. "All ships engage the enemy. Fighters and bombers, launch and target the remaining Vorkarian vessels." The human fleet surged forward, closing in on the scattered Vorkarian ships. Fighters and bombers swarmed out from the Nemesis, their weapons tearing into the enemy vessels. Explosions lit up the void as ship after ship fell to the human onslaught. On the surface of the Vorkarian homeworld, human dropships descended through the atmosphere, carrying marines and heavy equipment. They landed in key locations, securing strategic points and cutting off Vorkarian supply lines. The ground battle had begun. As Chris watched the Vorkarian fleet crumble before him, a sense of pride swelled in his chest. The Nemesis had proven itself today, a testament to human ingenuity and determination. But even as he savored the victory, he knew this was only the beginning. The Vorkarians would not take this defeat lightly. They would be back seeking vengeance. Chris stared out at the wreckage of the enemy fleet, his jaw set with resolve. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he and the crew of the Nemesis would be ready to face them head-on. The universe had just learned the true strength of humanity, and it would not soon forget. The smoke cleared as the Nemesis and its escort ships mopped up the last remnants of Vorkarian resistance. Captain Chris Williams let out a long breath, his body still tense from the adrenaline of battle. They had won, but at a cost. He looked out at the wreckage of enemy ships, the twisted metal and debris a testament to the ferocity of the fighting. There was no time to rest, though. They had to secure the Vorkarian homeworld and establish control before any counterattack could be mounted. Chris turned to his first officer. "Get the Marines down there. Set up a perimeter around the capital city and start rounding up any surviving Vorkarian leaders. We need to move fast." The officer nodded and relayed the orders. Dropships full of heavily armed Marines began descending to the planet's surface. They met scattered resistance from Vorkarian holdouts, but it was quickly crushed. Within hours, the capital was under human control. As the occupation took hold, Chris received a strange report from one of the Marine teams. They had found what appeared to be a hidden underground complex beneath the city. He frowned. The Vorkarians had been hiding something. He gathered a squad and headed down to investigate personally. They entered the complex cautiously, weapons at the ready. What they found inside was beyond anything Chris had imagined. It was a vast laboratory, filled with advanced equipment and strange bubbling vats. In the center of it all was a massive computer system, its screens showing complex diagrams and equations. Chris stepped closer, his eyes widening as he realized what he was looking at. "My God," he breathed. They were experimenting with mind control. The implications hit him like a punch to the gut. If the Vorkarians had perfected this technology, they wouldn't have just conquered humanity, they could have enslaved the entire galaxy, every sentient species, reduced to puppets dancing on Vorkarian strings. He began searching through the computer files, looking for more information. What he found chilled him to the bone. The Vorkarians hadn't been working alone. There were records of communication and collaboration with other alien races, all working together on this mind control project. It was a conspiracy on a galactic scale, with the goal of creating a new world order. A universe where this shadowy cabal pulled the strings of every government and every species. They would be the ultimate puppet masters. Chris slammed his fist against the console. He couldn't let that happen. He wouldn't. "Secure this facility," he ordered his men. "I want every scrap of data analyzed and every piece of equipment catalogued. We need to know exactly what they were doing here and how close they were to making it work." As the Marines set to work, Chris sent an encrypted message back to Earth, warning them of the danger. The Vorkarians may have been defeated, but this was far from over. If there were other members of this cabal out there, they needed to be found and stopped. He began poring over the files, looking for any clue to the other conspirators' identities or locations. The Nemesis had won the battle, but Chris knew that the real fight was just beginning. They had stumbled onto something bigger than they ever could have imagined. He felt a chill run down his spine as he worked. He couldn't shake the sensation that somewhere out there the cabal was watching him, waiting for their moment to strike. Let them watch, he thought grimly. The Nemesis and her crew would be ready for them. No matter how long it took or how far they had to go, Chris swore that he would hunt these bastards down and end their plot once and for all. The fate of the free galaxy depended on it. Chris felt his heart sink as the distress call from the nearby human colony came through. The timing couldn't have been worse. They were so close to tracking down the cabal, but he couldn't ignore the colony's plea for help. The scans showed a massive fleet of unknown alien ships attacking the settlement, their weapons tearing through the colony's defenses like they were made of paper. "It has to be the cabal," Chris muttered, his hands clenching into fists. "They're trying to draw us away to distract us from our real target." He stared at the tactical display, watching the alien ships swarming around the colony. The Nemesis was the most powerful ship in the human fleet, and it was the colony's best chance for survival. But if he sent the Nemesis to defend the colony, it would mean abandoning their hunt for the cabal. Chris wrestled with the decision for a long moment, before finally coming to a choice. "We'll split our forces," he ordered. "Send a portion of the fleet to defend the colony. The Nemesis and the rest will continue on to the cabal's location." His crew relayed the orders, and Chris watched as a group of ships peeled away from the formation, racing towards the besieged colony. He could only pray that they would be enough to hold off the alien attack. The Nemesis and its remaining escorts pressed on, closing in on the coordinates where they believed the cabal was hiding. As they approached, Chris felt a growing sense of unease. Something didn't feel right. Suddenly alarms blared throughout the ship. "Multiple contacts emerging from stealth," the tactical officer shouted. "They're everywhere." The view screens lit up with the sight of alien ships, their hulls sleek and angular, their weapons glowing with an eerie light. They were like nothing Chris had ever seen before, far more advanced than even the Vorkarians. "All ships engage," Chris ordered, even as a cold realization settled in his gut. The cabal had been holding back, hiding their true strength until this moment. And now, They had the Nemesis exactly where they wanted it. The battle was joined, human and alien ships trading blows across the void. The human fleet fought bravely, but they were outmatched. The alien weapons sliced through their shields like they weren't even there, while their own attacks seemed to barely scratch the alien hulls. The Nemesis shuddered as it took hit after hit, its shields flickering and failing. Consoles exploded across the bridge, showering the crew with sparks. "Shields are down," someone shouted. "Weapons offline." Chris gripped the arms of his chair, his mind racing. They couldn't win this fight, not against these odds, but they couldn't let the Cabal escape either. If they did, all of this would have been for nothing. He made his decision in a heartbeat. "Helm, set a collision course for the largest alien ship," he ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos around him, ramming speed. There was a moment of stunned silence on the bridge. Then his crew leapt into action, their faces grim with determination. They knew what this meant. They knew the price they would pay. The Nemesis surged forward, its engines straining as it accelerated towards the alien flagship. The alien ship tried to evade, but it was too late. The Nemesis slammed into its hull with a force that shook the very fabric of space. Chris felt the impact in his bones, felt the deck beneath his feet buckling and twisting. He saw the alien ship breaking apart, its hull rupturing and spilling debris into the void. And he saw the Nemesis, his ship, his home, being torn to shreds around him. He felt a sharp pain in his chest, looked down to see a jagged piece of metal protruding from his body. With the last of his strength, Chris reached out and activated the Nemesis self-destruct sequence. The Cabal would never get their hands on the ship's secrets. The Nemesis would die, but it would take the heart of the Cabal with it. As the world around him faded into darkness, Chris thought of Earth, of the colonies, of all the trillions of lives that he had sworn to protect. He hoped that his sacrifice would be enough, that the Nemesis' final act would give humanity a fighting chance. Then he knew no more. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.